Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. It's time for another special guest. I have a special guest all the way from Michigan, a friend of mine that I went to high school with. Matter of fact, another football friend. We played varsity football together, and he was a year ahead of me, but we just getting caught up a little bit. Welcome from the world of radio, my friend Peter Brooks. Go ahead, Peter.
Hey, Andy, thank you so much. Nice to be with you. Yeah, World of Radio is right. I started in radio when I was in high school, about the time you and I were playing football together. And that's all I've ever done. I'm in my 48th year now of doing radio work, because I got the face for it, brother, as you can see, right? So, yeah, I started in our hometown of West Branch, Michigan, through the co-op program in high school. I was in my spring of my junior year. I got a job there as a part-time announcer and writing commercials, and got into sales. Had a manager who kind of took me under his wing and mentored me and gave me a lot of opportunities that I really didn't deserve, probably. I had a chance to leave West Branch after about 4 or 5 years there and go down and manage a radio station in Salina, Ohio when I was 21, which is way too young to be doing that, frankly. But I learned a lot. And it's a lot of great memories, 48 years of radio, and most of that, other than maybe the first 5, have been in Christian radio with Family Life Radio, this organization. So I left Salina, Ohio, where I was managing that station after 6 months of working there and getting burned out, frankly, and went to work in Christian radio in the Mason-Lansing area. This is all Family Life Radio, Mason-Lansing area. And then to Albuquerque, started our station out there. I was there for about 6 years, and then they asked me to come back to Michigan, and I've been in mid-Michigan since 1988. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been doing our radio station, like most today, especially when you're in a group of radio stations, have moved from a model of having each station be live and local to being network operated. And so, for example, for about 10 years, I was doing the network morning show for all of our stations. We have 45 signals around the country. And then about a couple of years ago, I slipped down, and I started doing the afternoon show for our network from Michigan. But I mean, I'm heard in Phoenix and Tucson and Albuquerque and Lubbock, Texas, and Panama City Beach, Florida, and Macon, Georgia. Everywhere we have radio stations, plus online as well. So it's been fun. I'm not quite to the point of hanging up the headphones yet, but the end is in sight, eventually. And it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great experiences. God has blessed me. And probably one of the things I learned early on about radio, Andy, is that when you speak into a microphone in live radio, you can never take that back. Once those words are out of your mouth, they're gone. It's not like in a store where you put the wrong price on a product. You can go back and relabel it when somebody points out that was the wrong price, But when in radio, if you say something, boom, it's gone. And when I was in West Branch at that radio station, which was a typical small town 1,000-watt AM daytime station back in the 70s, right? We used to do a daily birth report, because we were like the daily news source. It was a weekly newspaper, as you may remember. And my shift for a while involved, among other things, doing the birth report. And so our secretary would call the hospital and get the names of who had had a baby and how much the baby weighed and how long it was and everything. Bring the slip in with those names and all the info on it. And I'd play the commercial for the sponsor. And then I'd read, Mr. and Mrs. John Smith had a baby boy yesterday. Baby weighed, 8 pounds, 7 ounces and was 21 inches long. And then I'd finish it up. Well, one day she brought the form in. This is the morning I had checked my brain in at the door, because she handed me that slip of paper. And I looked at it and I said, Mr. and Mrs. John Smith had a baby boy. And she had written down, let me show you this. She had written down, you got to see this to make it understandable. She had written down the baby weighed 5 pounds, 12 ounces. Okay, so let me hold this up and see it. You see that? 5 pounds, 12 ounces. Andy, I looked at that and said the baby weighed 51 pounds, 12 ounces and was 17 inches long. And the second baby weighed 61 pounds, 4 ounces. And the third baby weighed 91 pounds, 2 ounces. And I said these like their normal birth weights, right? And I finished up and started the next song, and she comes running in the studio and she grabs that piece of paper and she goes, "What does this say?" And she's like hyperventilating. And I looked at it and I said, 5 pounds, 12 ounces. She goes, "You said 51 pounds. I said, "No, I didn't. I'm a professional." She said, "Yes, you did." And the phones are going crazy out there. So I had to go back on the air and say, "I got to make a little correction, folks. The baby the Smiths had weighed 5 pounds, 12 ounces. I never had a baby. How should I know? And, but Andy, I tell you, for weeks, every time I saw somebody, they'd say, "Hey, how's a 51-pound baby's doing?" I went back to my 15 or 20-year high school reunion. People were still coming up to me. "Hey, Peter, remember those 51-pound babies?" Kind of stuff. So that was, one of the early lessons I learned in radio is that once you say it, it's gone. And I've made a whole lot of faux pas on the air since then, but that was one of my favorites. The plus side of it, though, one of the really cool things, if I can, I've gotten the chance to interview a number of people, Christian recording artists, authors, but probably the two that really stick out in my mind was when Jimmy Carter, former President Carter, released a devotional book a few years ago from Zondervan, and we got to interview him. So I got to talk with former President Jimmy Carter about his faith and about the book. It was really cool. And the other one was I got to talk to my boyhood hero. I grew up as a Green Bay Packer fan back in the Lombardi era. Bart Starr was my hero. And, every year Athletes in Action has a Super Bowl breakfast, and they give out the Bart Starr Award to an NFL player who exhibits Christian character on and off the field. And for years, Bart was there to hand out the award. Of course, he passed away a couple years ago. But back about, 7 or 8 years ago, I got a chance to talk to Bart Starr about the Bart Starr Award and the Athletes in Action program. So I got him on the phone, and I'm just fanboying like crazy because this is my hero. And I get on the phone with him, and Andy, he was the nicest, kindest guy in the world. And I started out by saying, "I got to tell you first off, Mr. Starr, I'm a huge fan. I grew up, you were my hero. I wanted to be Bart Starr. I played quarterback, and I was nowhere near, of course, anywhere near as good as you were, but man, I wanted to be like you." And he laughed, and he said, "Well, that's very kind." He said, "Call me Bart." I about fell off my chair. "Call me Bart?" I told my co-host, that's going to be my new ringtone on my phone. "Call me Bart." So that was one of the real highlights of my career. I got to talk about his faith in football and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun.
It's amazing how God just gives us direction even at an early age. I looked and dabbled into radio a little bit at that same radio station, and talked to the same people that helped you out. And my dad ran a church radio program right out of that station, and I announced it, and we spun a few songs every morning. It was like a 15-minute gospel program. Looked into being licensed, and then looked into that, and just felt, well, this is again, I just didn't think that was where I should go, and I didn't head that direction. But then you told me about God just putting people in your life to mentor you, some of the same people that I had run into there in West Branch, and how when you look back at it, God put you at the right place at the right time to put you where you should be for life. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. In fact, when I was in high school, I was debating between my junior year, looking at where I was going to go to college and what I was going to do. I was praying about and debating, did I feel God wanted me to go into the pastoral ministry or journalism? I was editor of the school paper for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed that. And then just kind of out of the blue, this radio gig offered itself to me, and I started doing that, and Andy, I loved it. And I really felt that was where I was supposed to be. And when Gene Flowers, who was the manager of the station, began mentoring me, before mentoring was even a thing, but he took me under his wing for whatever reason, I don't know. But he coached me, he gave me opportunity, and I felt that was where I was supposed to be. And then I got into radio, Christian radio, a few years after that, and I could see how God had prepared me for this. Not that every Christian should be in Christian radio. We need Christians in secular media, just like any other industry. But I know that this is where I'm supposed to be, and doing what I'm doing the best I can. And so I've been doing for, like I said, 48 years now.
I was just thinking about what message that I think God would want for our conversation. And, I think of quite often the people that touched my life through the years, and as I find it to you to put you in the direction you should be. And I also think about now in our life, we're at a point where we need to look around too. And there's folks that are our age that may be listening to this, and I want to challenge you. Who around your life do you need to speak into their life? Because it's the message that mentoring message of whatever world that you're in, whatever ministry that you're in, how are we lifting up the people around us? Because when we're gone, somebody else has to keep lifting up that same message. And what are we doing to pass it on like others have passed on to us? And I think that's a good thing that we could kind of look at today.
You know, years ago, at one of the Promise Keepers conferences, I heard Howard Hendricks give a talk, and he said every man, and this will go for every woman too, but he said every man needs to have a Timothy, a Barnabas, and a Paul in their life.
Yes.
A Paul who will teach and mentor, a Barnabas who will come alongside and encourage, and a Timothy who you can pour into. And that was great wisdom. Everybody needs to have those three people in their life. And if they're not there, you need to pray that God would show you who those people are. Because they're there, you just have to maybe work on making the connections and building those relationships, but they're there. And while I've had the chance to talk to a number of, celebrities, quote unquote, I got to be honest with you, what I've enjoyed most about radio, and particularly Christian radio, is the fact that every day I get to talk to people like you and me, people who are, trying to walk out their faith, trying to find God, trying to deal with hurts in their life. And a lot of them times they call, our phone line's always open. I talk to a lot of listeners every day, and I get to pray with them, and I get to share some of the things that they have learned, with airing their calls. I get to share some of the things God has taught me, and invite other people to do the same thing. And of course the music, because we're a music intensive radio format. But it's the people that I get to talk to every day that keeps me coming back doing what I'm doing. I love the chance to share Jesus. I love the chance to talk to people and to try and give some hope to people in some times that are not always real hopeful. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Finding those people that we can, in any way God gives us, in any platform God gives us, to pour into and to learn from.
Absolutely. I want to thank my friend Peter for reconnecting with me. It's been many years since we've even been video face to face, and we've been since high school since we've been had physically seen each other. But I want to encourage you to pass this message on. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm presenting it today as you're seeing it today. I've already gone ahead and put it in YouTube, so you'll see down below where there's a YouTube of this interview. Pass it on to your friends. Pass this Facebook on to your friends, and share the message as we continue to reach those about the message of Christ. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for my guest, Peter. Any closing words or thoughts, Peter?
No, just Andy, you wrapped it up. Just be blessed and look for ways to bless others, to pass that blessing on.
Thank you so much. Keep joining me here on Morning Moments, and may God richly bless you.